Now, each week, hundreds in South Florida come to hear a controversial message from this self-proclaimed Son of God.
I'm Jesus Christ, man.
Tonight, meet the local preacher who claims he's Jesus Christ.
Well, you may not agree, but we've seen the hundreds of followers he has here in South Florida.
Add to that the thousands that he claims to have around the world. CBS 4's Ileana Barella spoke with him. Ileana.
Maggie, over the years, many have claimed to be the new Messiah. This latest entry is a self-proclaimed Jesus who favors designer sunglasses, wears a Rolex, and drives a Beamer. And you don't have to drive far to see him. He's right here in South Florida.
He's back.
I'm Jesus Christ, man. The second coming of Christ.
His name is José Luis de Jesus Miranda, but his followers call him Apostle, Dad, or simply Jesus Christ Man.
He is God. He is God.
And they lavish him with money and gifts.
I don't only have one Rolex, I have about 3, because they want to give it to me. It's like when that woman came to Jesus with the expensive perfume and spread it in his feet. He didn't reject it. So when someone gives me a watch or something or a gift, I receive it, you know. I like them too. They're nice.
This self-proclaimed Son of God is a 60-year-old former heroin addict and convict. The divorced father of 4, born in Puerto Rico, now lives in South Florida with his second wife. From this warehouse in Doral, he presides over the Creciendo en Gracia, or Growing in Grace ministry, which he also calls God's government on earth. And as any other head of state, he is protected by a security detail that mimics the Secret Service. Miracles, you're healing the sick, you have to walk on water. Do you do any of those things?
No, not necessarily. That's not. See, my evidence is the church, what I'm doing worldwide.
What he is doing at more than 300 centers in Central and South America, Cuba, and the U.S. is preaching a message of freedom to indulge. Because according to this modern Messiah, there is no sin, no devil, no hell to pay.
The devil is destroyed, hell doesn't exist, no condemnation for the chosen ones.
It is music to the ears of his followers, mostly Hispanic men and women who believe they are God's chosen people, predestined for salvation, no matter what they do on earth. They also believe all other faiths are false and must be destroyed, from Catholics to Baptists to Jehovah's Witnesses. And so they organize marches like this one in Miami, at which they destroy religious books and symbols. They also have a campaign aimed at disrupting other religious gatherings, sometimes with violent consequences.
What disturbs me is that he fits into the typical mold of a cult leader. Total, complete submission to his authority.
Florida International University religion professor Daniel Alvarez, who has a master's in theology from Harvard Divinity School, is among those who fear Creciendo en Gracia has the makings of a destructive cult.
He destroyed my family.
So do former members like Regina Albarracin, who left the church about 5 years ago. Her husband soon followed, but their son Alvaro remained to become one of the ministry's biggest financial backers, donating more than $1 million to the church. And he is not alone. Many others have set up businesses in De Jesus's name that pour cash into the ministry.
So I know, we're going to be ruling the whole world.
A web entrepreneur and self-made millionaire, Alvaro Albarracin left his wife and children for the man he calls Jesus, remarried to another church member, and rarely speaks to his parents, who insist he has been brainwashed by the man they certainly don't call Jesus. You think he's Jesus Christ?
No, I don't think so.
What do you think he is?
He's a devil.
You think he's a devil?
Yes, I do.
Well, he says the devil doesn't exist.
He said that, but it's him.
Regina Albarracin is afraid for her son's soul, and Professor Alvarez says she should be. Most of these movements, he says, self-destruct sooner or later.
lots of broken lives, a lot of the spiritual and emotional and psychological debris that will be strewn on the path of this gentleman. The fallout from this would be inestimable, particularly for the lives of the people who get caught up in this kind of a movement.
But unfazed by the criticism, De Jesus continues to plan for the role he believes he is destined to play on the world stage.
The real government of God upon the earth, reigning all the nations.
And you will rule?
I will be the president of the biggest government that this earth has experienced.
De Jesus, which literally means of Jesus, broadcasts his message around the world through a 24-hour cable channel and netcast, and he is convincing many, drawn by his charisma and the promise of salvation no matter how bad they want to be. Because remember, he claims sin does not exist.
You're free to practice any kind of religion in this country that you want, but it scares me when they get to the part about bringing down the other religions. How dangerous do you think that could become?
Well, obviously, if you talk to any of the other people who have been the target of the protests, they don't like it one bit because, again, this is a reason why we live in the United States. But I think one of the most controversial messages that all the other religions are against is this concept that you are free to indulge. So theoretically, you can rape, steal, kill. If you're one of the chosen ones, you might go to jail if you're caught. But in the end, when you die, you will still go to heaven, or what they call the cloud of witnesses.
Well, ironically, if you go to his church, that automatically makes you a chosen one, right?
Exactly.
That's the idea.
Thank you, Ileana. See the controversy.
Now I've heard it all.
It's important to read. Oh, fight!
This therapeutic feeding center just outside of Maradi in Niger has been ground zero for the country's hunger crisis. It is an intensive care unit for the weakest of the weak, children who are literally starving to death. These images captured the fleeting attention of the international community, a spotlight that has now disappeared, leaving a country in crisis.
What we're seeing is that the situation is not getting any better. We're seeing the same number of people entering our supplemental feeding centers each week, and we're about to open several therapeutic feeding centers to deal with the more severely malnourished, because there is still a crisis of severe proportions here in Niger.
International aid organizations have been asking for help since last year, but despite a forecast of a famine, their calls were ignored.
We knew this was going to happen. I mean, it's like we knew because we had indicators saying this year is going to be terrible. because the rain are not coming. So it's not like an overnight disaster where you are caught by surprise.
Nutritionists say the problem was compounded because children in Niger suffer from chronic malnutrition. Their weakened immune systems are vulnerable, and frequently it's after a life-threatening infection that they're brought to feeding centers such as this one in Jean Tadou.